Hi everyone, it's just Nana again now. Grandad's gone back up to Lancaster for about a week, and then Nana's going to head up to go and see him. But I will keep on doing the stories. So tonight's story is called Mashenka and the Bear. And I'll show you a picture. There you go. That bear looks a bit cross, doesn't he? So, if you're sitting comfortably, then I will begin. An old peasant and his wife had a granddaughter, Mashenka. One summer's day, the little girl's friends called on her to go mushrooming with them in the meadow. "Granny, Grandad," cried Mashenka, "may I go out to play?" "I'll bring you lots of mushrooms, I promise." "Run along then," the old pair said, "but mind you don't go near the forest, or else the wolves or the bears will get you." Off skipped the girls towards the meadow at the forest edge. Mashenka knew that the best and biggest mushrooms grew beneath the trees and bushes in the forest. Almost without noticing it, she wandered out of sight from her friends. She moved from tree to tree, from bush to bush, picking a basket full of mushrooms, reds and yellows, browns and whites. All the while she went deeper and deeper into the forest. Suddenly she looked up and realized she was lost. "Hello! Hello!" she called. There was no reply. Someone heard her nonetheless. From the trees came a rustling and a crackling, and out stepped a big brown bear. When he set eyes on the little girl, he threw up his arms in joy. "Aha!" he cried. "You'll make a fine servant for me, my pretty one." Taking the girl roughly by the arm, he dragged her to his cottage in the depths of the dark wood. Once inside, he growled at her. "Now stoke that fire, cook some porridge, and make my home clean and tidy." There now began a miserable life in the bear's cottage for poor Mashenka. Day after day she toiled from dawn to dusk, afraid the bear would eat her. All the while she thought of how she could escape. Finally an idea came to her. "Mr. Bear," she said politely, "may I go home for a day to show my grandparents I'm alive and well?" "Certainly not," growled the bear. "You'll never leave here. If you have a message, I'll take it myself." That was just what Mashenka had planned. She baked some cherry pies, piled them on a dish, and fetched a big basket. Then she called the bear. "Mr. Bear, I'll put the pies in this basket for you to carry home. Remember, though, not to open the basket, and don't touch the pies. I'll be watching, and when you set off, I'll climb on the roof to keep an eye on you." "All right, pretty one," grumbled the bear. "Just let me take a nap before I go." So no sooner was the bear asleep than Mashenka quickly climbed onto the roof and made a lifelike figure out of a pole, her coat and headscarf. Then she scrambled down, squeezed into the basket, and pulled the dish of cherry pies over her head. When the bear woke up and saw the basket ready, he hoisted it onto his broad back and set off for the village. Through the trees he ambled with his load, and soon he felt tired and footsore. Stopping by a tree stump, he sank down to rest, thinking of eating a cherry pie. But just as he was about to open the basket, he heard Mashenka's voice. "Don't sit there all day, and don't you touch those pies." Glancing round, he could just see her figure on the roof. My, that maid has sharp eyes," he mumbled to himself. Up he got and continued on his way. On and on he went, carrying the heavy load. Soon he came upon another tree stump. "I'll just take a rest and eat a cherry pie," he thought, puffing and panting. Yet once again Mashenka's muffled voice was heard. "Don't sit down and don't touch those pies. Go straight to the village as I told you." He looked back but could no longer see his house. "Well, I'll be jiggered," he exclaimed. "She's got eyes like a hawk, that girl." So on he went. Through the trees he shuffled, down into the valley and through the groves of ash, up grassy knolls, until finally he emerged into a meadow. I must rest my poor feet, he sighed, and I'll just have one small pie to refresh me. Surely she can't see me now. But from out of nowhere came a distant voice. I can see you. I can see you. Don't you touch those cherry pies. Go on, Mr. Bear. The bear was puzzled, even scared. What an extraordinary girl she is, he growled, hurrying across the field. At last he arrived in the village, stopped at Mashenka's door and knocked loudly. Open up, he cried gruffly. I've bought a present from your granddaughter. The moment they heard his voice, however, dogs came running out from all the yards. Their barking startled him so much he left the basket at the door and made off towards the forest without a backward glance. How surprised Mashenka's grandparents were when they opened the door, found the basket and saw no one in sight. Grandad lifted up the lid, stared hard, and he could scarcely believe his eyes, for there beneath the cherry pies sat a little girl, alive and well. Granny and Grandad both danced with joy, hugged Mashenka, and said what a clever girl she was to trick the bear. Soon all her friends heard the news and came running to hug and kiss her too. Mashenka was so happy. In the meantime, deep in the forest, the old bear had reached home and shouted the figure on the roof to make his tea. Of course, it did not take him long to learn that the wise young girl had tricked him. That was good. Wow, I wasn't expecting that, were you? Wow, when I started reading it, I thought he might have eaten her up. So there's the picture again. It's no wonder he looked cross. Wow. I'm not sure I could fit into a basket, though. It's a good job she was little, isn't it? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I will read you another story tomorrow. So sleep really well. And I know it's really hot and sticky, but try and have a good sleep tonight. Love you loads and loads and loads. So I love you, Ruby, and I love you, Max, and I love you, Atty, and I love you, Torben. So be good. Mwah. Love you loads. And see you tomorrow. Bye.